feel like this is a really good time to be in the library business.
Yeah.
Because, you're right. The world is nuts.
Yeah.
And everyone's yelling at each other. And if you disagree with someone, they're your enemy. Library's kind of a sanctuary from that.
Mm-hmm.
We disagree with each other all the time. But no one thinks you're a jerk.
I'm Brandon Dawson, and this is The Distiller, a podcast about how we find meaningful work and how we find meaning in the work we do. If you've already heard episode 38 with thanatologist Colin Perry on the work she's doing around death, dying, and grief, then you already heard a little bit about the Mercantile Library, where we recorded that episode. Well, today, you're going to hear a bit more because my guest for this episode is the executive director of the Mercantile Library, John FAHERTY. When I was a kid, libraries were these quiet, dark, kind of ageless places where time seemed to stand still. Today, it kind of seems like libraries are more like rebel bases, outposts of intellectual integrity in an age of aggressive apathy and fake news. There are so many little details that make the Mercantile Library great, but behind it all, kind of the secret formula, the special sauce, is the people. The staff of the library are amazing, smart, engaged people who understand a library as a beacon in dark times. You might think that the executive director of a 160-plus-year-old library would be a quiet, serious person. John FAHERTY, as you will hear, is neither quiet nor particularly serious. He's lively, self-effacing, and as you'll hear, funny as hell. And he's someone on whom the serendipitous uniqueness of his vocation is definitely not lost. John and I met for drinks on a steamy Friday afternoon at the end of June at Vodka Bar, an Eastern European-inspired vodka bar with spirits and cuisine from the old country, located just a few blocks north of the library on Main Street in Over-the-Rhine, Cincinnati. Owner Sarah Dworak and her crew delivered delicious cocktails and prepared to open the place as we talked. You can hear some of that around us going on. I had so much fun talking with John about the history of the library, about his job, both how he got it and how he does it, and about the crucial role that the library plays in today's world. Hopefully, you enjoy this conversation even half as much as I did. Here is my conversation with John FAHERTY on The Distiller. First of all, welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining me. Oh, absolutely. Thanks for making the journey on what is turning into a hot, steamy Friday afternoon. It's a little muggy out there. Let's start off with, you're the executive director of the Mercantile Library. There are people that live in Cincinnati that are going to know what that means, but there's a host of people that don't live anywhere near here and won't know what that means. Let's start off by talking about the library, and then we'll talk about you and what you do. But give people just sort of the first elevator pitch of what the Mercantile Library is.
So the Mercantile Library, wow, that's a tough one. We're 184 years old. We were born before there were public libraries, so no one had access to books other than very wealthy families. This place was formed under the idea that let's just collaborate together, let's get all of our books together, and we'll buy books together, and we'll form our own library, which is a pretty simple origin story, and we've really been still trying to live up to it every day because it was such a great start. And we have survived for a long time now, in part because we're so great, and in part because we have the best lease in the world. We have $1 a year lease for 10,000 years that we paid up front.
10,000 years.
Yes, we're in like year 180 of our first 10,000 year lease. It's renewable, which has allowed us to be, frankly, that lease. There used to be hundreds of these libraries across the country, and now there's like 18 of them.
Well, so did libraries start off only at academic institutions before public?
Yeah, libraries were for rich families that had their own private libraries, and then universities where only rich families would send only their sons. Okay. So it was a very limited access to books. Books were expensive.
And then there's a membership library, so a group of people in 1835 decide we're going to pool our resources, and then you can sign up and pay a due and be a part of the thing.
Absolutely.
How does that lease come about? I mean, there's got to be a good story behind it.
There is a really good lease
10,000
story.
year renewable lease.
The building, we've always been renters. We've never owned the building. And in the first 10 years, the building burned pretty much to the ground.
Oh, wow.
Twice. At which point the building owners said, we don't like owning buildings. They keep burning down. We're out. Mm-hmm. And our library membership, we're about 10 years into our existence at this point, really wanted the building to stick around. And for some reason, they desperately did not want to be owners of the building.
Okay.
So they, in 1845, came up with $10,000, which is a fair amount of money.
Sure.
And gave it to the building owners and said, this is a gift. You build your own building. All we want is our library back, just one floor on that of your building for the next 10,000 years.
Wow. In the same place you're in now?
Yeah, it's actually tied to the address. So, like, the building got torn down in 1900, and the owners of the building had to put us up for 4 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I bet they loved that.
It's a pretty advantageous lease. I think at the time, at the beginning, it was very advantageous to the building owners.
Right.
Who probably thought we were fools and rubes. And now it's turned out to be a really good deal for us.
Man, what foresight.
And it was written by Alphonso Taft, who had just arrived in town about 4 years previously.
Okay.
And was a very good lawyer.
Father of William Howard?
William and the Taft Museum Taft.
Okay.
So he was a very good lawyer. People have tried to get out of that lease many times, but it's pretty ironclad.
He wrote it rock solid at the time.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it is, so you occupy the 11th and 12th floors of the Mercantile building at 414 Walnut in downtown Cincinnati. What else is in that building?
Regular old offices.
Okay.
Like lawyers.
Just renters.
Everyone's a renter.
All right.
It's kind of a jewel. It's a building you'd probably pass by. A lot of people have passed by it. It's right around the corner from Fountain Square.
Yeah.
And it's just another old brick building in the city, but it's relatively tall, and we're up there, but people come up there all the time and are just kind of like, oh, I had no idea this was here.
Right.
This is really pretty spectacular.
I got to imagine you get to witness everybody's first time experience when they walk
pretty
into
neat.
the place.
It's, especially young people love it. Mm-hmm. Old people love it. It feels kind of Harry Potter-esque. I mean, it's just really, I think it's probably the prettiest space in the city.
Yeah.
And there's others that will rival it, but I don't know.
The old staircase and...
It's pretty great. Yeah, that wrought iron staircase. People are always thinking they're not allowed to use it. I'm like, well, it's pretty much all we got.
That's why it's there. Yeah. So, 80,000 titles is what you say on the, on the website?
That's probably true. It might be a little bit more than that now.
Okay. And people pay a membership fee to use it, but people can use it. People can come in.
People use it. We're not standing at the door with guards.
Okay.
You really only go in there if you really want to go there.
Yeah.
You don't happen upon it.
Right.
I wish more people could happen upon it. I mean, the beauty is we're up on the 11th floor. The bad news is we're up on the 11th floor.
Sure.
People aren't sure we're there.
Right. You got to want to go there.
You got to want to go. You're probably going intentionally. But everyone who comes, I always say, please use it. Try it. Yeah. My thinking is if I can get you through the door 3 times, you will absolutely become a member.
Yeah.
Membership's thriving. Membership's higher than it's been in well over 100 years.
Well, and that's in no small part to you and what you've been doing and the event series. So this is, if you're in Cincinnati, some of the best stuff that comes through town comes through the Mercantile Library.
Yeah.
I mean, I was first aware of it. I moved here 15 years ago, and I think the first time the library came across my radar was when Salman Rushdie was speaking there in what was probably 2005 or 2006. You had Margaret Atwood this year.
Yep.
You recently just had Chuck D. I mean, you guys
We're on a good run.
You are on a seriously good run.
And it's not slowing down. You know, we're trying to line up next year and the year after that. You kind of book in advance in the library world.
Right.
Which I think is funny too.
So there's a library world.
Yeah, oddly enough, I'm in it, which would be a shock to everyone who ever taught me in grammar school, high school, or college.
Well, that was going to be my first question did you have any idea that this was what you would be doing?
Oh, no,
And
not at all.
What would 18-year-old John say if he knew, that later on you were going to be the executive director of a private membership library?
I would have seen the humor of it immediately. When I applied for the job, it was 4 years ago, about now.
Okay.
I think I started in June of, I guess, 15. I got the job, which was way more arduous than I had thought. I didn't know a gazillion people were going to apply for it. I applied for it just because I thought the space was so pretty, and I was in the newspaper business. I applied for the job. After months, I got the job, and I called my mom and dad, who didn't know I had been applying. They live in Chicago, and I called them, and I told my dad said, "Well, how much of a haircut are you going to have to take?" I said, "No haircut, Dad. I'm fine." He said, "So you're going to be a librarian?" With a certain amount of disdain. And I said, "No, Pops, I'm not really a librarian. I'm running a library. We have a librarian." And then, so he comes around. He's like, "All right. That seems like good news."
Seems like good news.
Seems like good news.
What a great phrase.
It gets so much worse. He hangs up the phone to talk to my mother, but he doesn't hang up the phone. He thinks he hangs up the phone. And he turns to her and he says, "All the people in all the world, and they hired that kid to run a library."
Thanks, Dad.
He still doesn't know that I heard him say that.
Oh, seriously?
And since then, he has passed on and has gone to heaven or somewhere, not knowing that I heard him say, "All the people in all the world, they hired
never brought that back. You never brought it up.
It was so perfect. Yes, I didn't want him to know.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much. Cocktails
you.
have been delivered. Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for joining us. And we will, for people that are listening, share the menu and details about the Vodka Bar, this beautiful, beautiful space that we're in. And Kyle Wolf is taking photos, and you'll be able to see it all on the website. So, what did you think you were going to do when you said you were in TV? You said you were in the newspaper business for a little while. Did you go to school for journalism?
I was a history major.
Okay.
So basically, yes.
Yeah, you might as well have.
I had to do something.
Right.
I had graduated from college. I'm 53. I graduated from college in 87 and kind of goofed around in Chicago and Boston back and forth for a few years, and then got into journalism, got into television, and moved west and moved to Albuquerque, Portland, and then Phoenix. Okay. And then we moved.
Doing what kind of television? Doing news?
Local television news.
Okay.
Just
yep.
Sausage grinding local television.
As a reporter?
News. Started as a reporter, became a producer.
Okay.
And then
moving up markets.
Yeah, that's a weird world.
Yeah.
You know, same job, bigger market, or smaller city, bigger job.
Totally.
There's this weird accordion.
Yeah, I was in radio for 15 years, so they're kind of parallel lives.
Parallel awful lives.
Exactly. Yes, I was trying to get out of radio for 15 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was trying to get out of Phoenix for 14 years.
Oh God, I hear that.
I loved the first 15 minutes.
Phoenix is one of maybe 3 cities in the United States, and sorry everybody in Phoenix, that I have no love for. Like that big sprawling expanse of a place.
Very nice people there. I made I like to say I made good friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
3 kids were born there, so I have a lot of. But I was ready to go.
Yeah, I hear you. So moving around, you thought that's. I mean, for me, I never thought radio was going to be my career. I fell from one job to the next. Was there intention in that, or was it just sort of taking what came to you?
I really loved print. Really liked it a lot.
Okay, even when you were on TV.
Mm-hmm. And so I got a chance to switch back to print. My first job was in print, switched to TV because I thought print was dying. And went to TV and thought, oh, wait, hold on, TV's dying. I should go back to print.
Right. Turns out it's just journalism that's dying.
Shows how smart I am at making decisions. And then about 10 years in print and 10 years in local television news, and then into the library. The library industrial complex.
The logical move into
Yes.
the library business where everybody ends up going. So you're in Cincinnati working for the Enquirer?
Yeah, was there for 3 years, I think.
Okay.
I was a reporter,
Yeah.
and my wife was the managing editor, and I was thinking, man, we can't both be in newspaper. This is
All
we know
your
how
eggs in
this
one
story
basket.
ends.
Yeah.
4 kids, college is coming, and so I was like, well, one of us has to get out, and it turns out we both did.
Okay.
So she works at Fifth Third Bank, and I work at the library.
And wisely so, as it turns out, given the state of the print.
I know.
Yeah.
It's really hard. There's some very nice, very smart people over there working really hard, and the product just isn't as good as it should be, needs to be on so many days.
Yeah, and I mean, there could be I'm sure there are whole shows about media consolidation and corporate ownership and the damage that's done to,
yes.
I mean, that was the story in radio, it was a story in TV, and certainly a story in journalism, more so even maybe than what people want to blame on the internet. But
Yeah, there's a million reasons.
yeah. But so at what point does this job come across your path, and why do you think that's actually something I could do?
I mean, I do like to read. I am literate.
Okay.
I do like to clarify
good
that
for a
I
writer.
am capable of reading.
Sure.
It just seemed like if you walk into that place, if you're listening to this and you've never walked in there, it'll be hard to know. But like the minute you walk in there, you just think, this place is amazing.
Yeah.
In like my last year in journalism, I had done a couple, we called them storytelling events, and they were really big. They turned out it was relatively new in the market, and we did 2 big events, and each one had like over 400 people.
Oh, wow.
We were very good speakers, got really lucky. I was like dumb enough to not know how dumb I was. But it all worked out nicely anyway. And I kind of liked it. I kind of liked bringing people together and everyone in the same room and talking about stories. And then like when this job opened, my predecessor, Albert Pyle, had been there more than 20 years, and he was done. He wanted out, and so I think he gave him like a year's notice.
Okay.
And they opened up this search, and I just thought, that seems like such an incredible job.
Yeah.
Because of that lease, it's really germane for today because it allows us to bring in Chuck D and Margaret Atwood and Colson Whitehead and Jennifer Egan. These are just all people who have had in the last 12 months. These are incredible thinkers and writers, and they don't go anywhere for free.
Right.
So we pay them.
But the fact that you're not putting so much money into overhead.
Right.
Yeah.
These other mercantile libraries or membership libraries, they all have a variety of names. Athenaeums, which is a terrible name, but at first I envied them because a lot of them own their own building. Like there's a big, beautiful one in Boston that's like 5 stories tall and the best location in the city. And I envied the woman who was the director there. I envied her space, and then she said, well, I just spent $400,000 on my roof.
Wow.
And I'm going to spend about $400 more on bathrooms next year. It's hard to, so she was spending all of her time raising money for the grounds in the building, and we have $400,000 to spend. We're bringing in Margaret Atwood.
Right.
That's Min Jin Lee.
Yeah.
These are you want to bring them in, you have to pay them. And so it's really great. And not to get too deep into the weeds, but a couple of years ago, a guy I work with, Chris Messick, he had this idea. We were trying to figure out how to increase membership, or more importantly, to do a better job retaining the members we had. And he had this idea to make attendance at events free for members. He did the math, and he said, we're not bringing in that much money on ticket sales. So it just answered. A lot of people would say, well, why do I want to become a member of the library?
If I still have to pay for the event.
If I still have, and it was a fair question. We had a lower level for members, lower price point for members, but being able to say, oh, if you're a member, you get all this also.
Yep.
And that was really a game changer. All of a sudden, all of our events, we used to have 100 people at events, now we're north of 200.
Yeah.
We had 225 people this week for a woman named Karen Ataya, and she is the editor at the Washington Post of Jamal Khashoggi, who was murdered this year. And she came and spoke as our Harriet Beecher Stowe Award winner, and she was incredible. So smart and so passionate about free speech.
Yeah.
And we paid her. She came, and everyone loved it. And it's been fun.
Do you feel, so there's probably not a private library series, there's not a circuit that these people are on.
Right.
Certainly they're speaking about something and they're going around, but do you feel sort of like an outpost of civilization and culture and rational thought, especially in today's America?
I feel like this is a really good time to be in the library business.
Yeah.
Because, you're right. The world is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And everyone's yelling at each other, and no one's nice to each other. And if you disagree with someone, they're your enemy. Library is kind of a sanctuary from that. We disagree with each other all the time. But, no one thinks you're a jerk.
Right.
Even if you are a jerk, you're like, oh, well, I don't like his ideas.
Yeah.
Or I don't like her, what she said. But
there's a place for discourse.
right.
Yeah.
It's kind of great.
Yeah. How much of that is involved in what you choose to put on, who you choose to bring in?
We, just like everyone else, we're trying to you're looking for the intersection of is this person good at what he or she does? Is she a great writer? Is she a great speaker? And then, you run it through, okay, will people want to come and hear him or her?
Are they any good in person?
Are they good? Right. Can they do it?
Yeah, because there's a lot of writers who
A lot
are
of
not
people
good
became
speakers.
writers because they don't like other human beings and other human beings don't like them.
Exactly.
So-
There's a lot of writers you don't want to meet in person.
No, they're awful. They don't disappoint you. They are exactly what you'd hope.
Who you fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're great.
Yeah.
And being able to access video, it helps a lot. You wouldn't think it, but
You can actually see them doing that.
right.
Yeah.
We've had speakers who were not good speakers, but great writers.
Right.
You have to start with, are they a good writer?
Yeah.
And which is kind of a fun thing. You're like, that's the point we're starting at.
Okay.
Can he or she is he or she saying something important right now?
Yeah.
It's just kind of a cool gig.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not one of those people who has a great job and doesn't know it.
You're pretty
If
pretty
it's
aware
any
of the special J.
consolation, I'm completely aware of how fortunate I am to have this gig.
Who has, for better or for worse, and you can either tell tales or not, surprised you the most about what you thought they would be versus what they brought to the room?
Min Jin Lee came in and blew everyone away.
Really?
She's an incredible writer. She writes one book every decade. And you don't know what you're going to get. She sounds almost reclusive. She was so warm and so engaging. Everyone who left that night said, pretty much said something along the lines of, she was my favorite speaker you guys have ever brought.
Right on. Wow.
People surprise you. Like Atwood, she's a pretty big star.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to get with someone who's had that type of success.
Yeah.
Although when you think, when you look back on it in hindsight, she's had an extraordinary success, but she's not young. She didn't.
Right.
She's not like a 30-year-old who suddenly is.
No, it took
the big thing.
Yeah, yeah.
That
And
book
certainly her star
percolated
is
for 40 years.
recently on the rise again
Right.
in a way that you might not have been able to predict.
And she completely understood the room, and she was really smart and gave everyone what they wanted. And then at the end, she was like, let's go have a couple drinks. This was last year's Nihoff lecture.
seriously?
Yeah, it's our one
She's not looking to go hide in the hotel. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, some people would run for the elevator.
Yeah.
But she said, where do we got to go for a nice drink?
I love it. That's great to hear.
oh,
She's
yeah.
funny as hell. I've heard her
I can tell you, you
interviewed-
don't want to put ice in your scotch in front of her.
Really?
You will
She's got a position?
She does. And the position is, how dare you?
Neat. Neat
Yes,
is the position.
She said, well, it's fine to do if you want to ruin it.
Oh, I love that. Water? Water, no? Or
Nothing.
Nothing.
I did sound like, what about that little drop? She said, no.
No. Don't mess with it.
Just drink it.
I love it.
Take it.
Just drink
Just shut up, show up, and keep up.
I heard her recently on, there's a podcast that I listened to. It's the worst name for a podcast. It's called Conversations with Tyler.
That is a pretty bad name for
It's a lovely podcast. It's this.
Okay.
It's
Well,
this
it would
guy.
almost have to be.
Yeah, and
What's the name of this podcast?
The Distiller. It's right.
Okay.
It's right
Oh.
here on your stickers.
The stickers are amazing.
It's right there for you.
For a podcast, you have amazing
Thank you.
Visual.
Thank you. That is
components.
that is our tagline. Is for a podcast we have the best stickers. That's our selling point.
Podcast is fine,
Yeah.
but this sticker is amazing.
right. You got to have something.
Truly great.
You got to have a selling point, and that's ours. As long as we're outstanding at something. I heard her interview, and it was obvious that she was very good-natured and did not have a super high opinion of the line of questioning that she was being drawn down.
She can be tough.
Yeah, but she was a lot of fun. Even still, listening to her navigate that line of questioning was a lot of fun.
We had Curtis Sittenfeld ask her the questions.
And for people that don't know, Curtis Sittenfeld, Cincinnati-based
Cincinnati,
writer.
grew up in Cincinnati. Her brother is on council.
Yep.
Her mom and dad are wonderful people. They've
Great
been
writer.
around,
What, she got 3-4 books out?
at least.
Yeah.
I mean, she's very accomplished.
Yep.
And she came, and she was a very good sport. She and I have become friendly over the last couple of years. I can't call her a friend, but we're friendly. I like her a lot. She's come and done some big events at the library. She always includes the Mercantile Library in her books.
Right on.
And so I asked her to come and ask the questions.
Which is a big ask.
It was a huge ask. She's very nice at the library. She did it. And then, the question asker, I'm sure I'm not telling you anything that's a hard spot.
It can be rough.
Sometimes the person's like,
Yeah.
well, you're an idiot. That
Yeah.
should be obvious to you.
Yeah.
Or, of course I wouldn't do it,
Right.
So I was sitting there up on the stage thinking, I really owe Curtis a stiff drink.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be a pretty good sport, especially to go, toe to toe with Margaret Atwood.
She was so great, and I really wanted someone someone who's newer in her career path, and someone who's been on it for literally decades or generations with Margaret. I mean, she's been doing this for 50 years, give or take. I mean,
well, yeah.
long time.
Handmaid's Tale was 1984, 85.
Yeah.
So
She wrote it in 84, and I think she wrote it in 84, and it came out in 85. She wrote it, I found out she wrote it on a rented typewriter in Berlin.
isn't that perfect?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that book, that's 35 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah. Wow. So what do you do I mean, that's the thing.
God,
You're the
you sound
exec.
like my kids. Like, yeah, what is it
the
that
hell
you
do you do?
You know, we come in there and you're just kind of there, Dad.
What do you think you do around
Right.
here? Yeah. But no, as the executive director of a private membership library, tell me a little bit about your days.
All right, I spend the first half of the day taking credit for everyone else's hard work.
Okay, good job.
And then sometimes I'll have a great idea and I'll tell everyone what a great idea it was. And then I'll kind of disappear for a week or two.
And they roll their eyes.
And they roll their eyes and I come back and it happens and I take all the credit for that.
That is a great job.
Oh, it's a really good gig. It's the role I was born to play. Like, just kind of like
How many people can
privileged
say that?
dick walking around. But what I actually do, oh God, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm working.
Well, so you've talked about
I put up chairs. I take chairs out of the closet
Sure.
and set them up. And then the following morning, I put the chairs back. I make sure the microphone's on. I don't know. I kind of raise money. I kind of
Well, I would
go to
imagine
meetings.
that. I would imagine so. Let's start here. Who do you answer to? Is there a board?
I do have a board.
Okay.
And I answer to them.
All right.
I have a 24-person board, 4 of whom are the executive committee.
Okay.
I've been really fortunate. I know there are some nightmare boards in
Yeah.
the world. I don't have one, so I've been really lucky.
So for-profit library is a nonprofit.
We are a nonprofit 501c3.
Okay. All right. So you got a nonprofit board. What do they want from you? Like at the end of the day, what is the board expecting? Is it about membership numbers? Is it about visibility in the community? Is it about an altruistic mission?
I think I've been pretty fortunate. A board's great when it says this is what we want, and then they either help you or don't,
Or let you do it however you want.
Not help you.
yeah, or go away and let you accomplish it.
Yeah, and they asked for change. They asked for growth. We needed to become, our membership needed to become younger. It needed to become more diverse.
Mm-hmm.
We needed to bring in new voices. We've always been a great library, but I'm not sure that we've always been a great library for everyone. So
you came in with a mandate of
I came in with a mandate
update
of
things and change things and
let's increase the vitality of this
Okay.
place and let's increase our membership. Now, boards always say that.
Yeah.
And then you say, I need to make this change and this change and this change. And then the board will
Hey,
say,
wait a second.
Slow down. We have a tradition here.
right.
Now, I have been really fortunate. I've had a board that said, make all these changes. And then when I started making the changes, minor changes. We were great when I got there. But they have never said, wait, hold on, that's not the way we do things here.
Right.
Which is, as you know, like a terrible thing. You're like, well, shit, that's not a good reason to not do
No,
something.
that's the thing you don't want to hear. That's
Right.
the death knell of.
In fact, that's a reason to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So really lucky. The board has been all in on increasing. We're fine. Our membership's good. Increasing relevance.
Okay.
If we're more relevant, more people will want to join us.
Yeah.
More people will stay members when they are members.
Yep.
And we're reaching a point where we had an event, it's June, we had an event the week before last of, we had 5 drag queens come and tell their personal stories.
Right.
Which was just kind of us reacting to, it's Pride Week, so
Right.
it's
Yeah.
a piece of the community, but about 2 weeks before that, a county library up in Newark, Ohio, was having an event at their library that involved drag queens, and a state lawmaker was so upset about it that he wrote a letter to the library and said, you can't do this, this is wrong, this is evil, this is amoral, you should not get any more public money.
Wow.
Clearly a threat. Now, I think the library, I mean, I'm not them. Maybe they had better, but they folded. They were like, okay, we're out. We're not going to do it. We're going to cancel this event.
Wow.
Which is really lousy. I mean, if the library can't hold the line on speech,
Yep. Who can?
who the hell can?
Yep.
So I was really disappointed with the lawmaker. I was really disappointed with the library. And I said, well, screw it. We'll have our own as a response project. We'll do that. And so I asked Penny Tration, who is a community builder and drag queen, to help. And she was like, yeah, we need to do this right now.
Right on.
And so her and Amy Hunter, who I work with, they really put it together.
Nice.
This was one of those deals where they put it together and I took all the credit. But in my defense, it was my idea.
But it sounds like it was a pretty damn good idea. Like,
It was a good idea. We had a very packed house for that.
Right.
2 of them were in drag, 3 of them were not in drag, and they told deeply personal, really interesting stories. So that's like kind of a fun,
yeah.
so that's kind of what I do. I try to have ideas
Yeah.
and then try to see if they're doable. This is work. I'm on the clock
Technically,
now.
you're working right now.
Don't pay no attention to the drink.
It's okay.
Immediately in front of me.
We'll edit that out of all the photos. No, we won't. No, but
Just talking about the libraries.
yeah, no, that makes sense. And increasing because you are up there on the 11th floor, and because unless you have a reason to come in or somebody's told you about it and you haven't experienced the magic of it yet,
Right.
that makes sense. What of your? It's interesting. I heard somebody, my partner Sarah Rose, and
Very good poet.
she's a great poet. Yeah, I think she's really
No,
good.
she's a really good poet.
No, I read.
I work at a library. I'm allowed to bestow this title.
Yes.
Terrific poet.
She is we live together, and so that's the person I live with, and occasionally I crack open one of her books and remember that she is an absolutely badass, amazing poet who kind of brings me to my knees, which is kind of wonderful. But she described you as, I was asking her, I said, I'm going to be talking to John today. What would you ask? What would you ask John?
That's okay.
And particularly, she described you as a forward-thinking person. And there wasn't a question out of that, but what came to my mind is there are a lot of people who, faced with sort of that charge of, you come into a historical institution and somebody says, make it more relevant or make it more forward-thinking, have a lot of good ideas but don't bring them to life. What is it about you that gives you the ability to both have the idea and make it happen, as opposed to maybe somebody that would come in and just say, well, gosh, I wish this was a little more relevant. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I'm guessing it comes out of being in the newspaper business, or in the television business before that. Like, you show up in the morning like, well, I gotta. Sometimes you walk in and they say, go do this. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you walk in and they say, what are you doing today?
You got to figure it out.
You have to come up with idea, and it's an idea that you can do it, and then you have to do it, and then you have to write it, and the deadline's at 8 p.m. Mm-hmm. So I think the ability to go from 0 to 60 in a day probably was really good training for me as start with nothing, end up with something that you've got to build. For me, it was great. Most people would tell you that I can't stay focused on something for too long. I am. You would kindly say you would kindly call me scatterbrained.
Uh-huh. I'm with you.
But being able to make something and then do it.
Find a job that
and
appreciates
then
that
just move
skill.
on to the next one.
Right.
To me, that's that's gravy. You're like, this is terrific. I only have to do it this one time.
Right. You don't have to do the same thing over and over again.
It's over when we do it
again. It gets to be new every day.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat.
People would think that being the executive director of a library is not something that is different every day, but it sounds like that's not necessarily the case.
It's a way better gig than anyone would know. Well, certainly than I knew. Maybe everyone else knew. I was floored at how many people applied for the job.
What are we talking
over
about?
100.
Okay.
And if I had known that many people were going to apply for it, I never would have applied for it. I would have
Right.
been like, oh, I got no shot. Which turned into a valuable lesson for me, like never say no to yourself.
Yeah.
Let someone else say no to you. This is one of those deals where I absolutely would have said no to myself. And because I was so dim-witted and ill-informed,
You didn't know what you were getting
I
yourself into.
had no idea that,
which
like,
is
of
the
course,
best.
everyone would want this job.
Yeah.
And so it's a great gig. Being able to work in we're kind of in the intellectual realm. We're kind of in the publishing realm. But we're really in the community business. Like that. And this is a city that, kind of celebrates community, but it's a really fun spot to work at. Like, we have people, the joke is that, like, we're the book club. Our members are the members of their book club who actually read the book.
Yeah, yeah.
That they are absolutely there for the wine.
Yep.
We go through you would be shocked.
No mistake. They're
You'd
going
be
to drink
shocked
the wine.
at how much wine the library goes through. I'm going to start keeping some sort of record because we go through a ton of wine. So we are there for the wine, but we actually read the book. We have people
Right.
who show up. Year before last, we did. We decided to do War and we wanted to do War and Peace, but we wanted to make it more accessible. So we
Okay.
called it War and Peace in Pieces, and we read it over 4 months, and it was 300 pages a month.
Okay.
And at the end, we drank vodka, and we didn't think 5 people would sign up for it. We had 25 people. We had to stop. We're like, that's it. We can't have any more people.
Right.
That was War and Peace. We're doing Crime and Punishment right
I
now.
really wanted to do Crime and Punishment. I was talking to Amy
Turns
about
out
that.
these are great books.
Oh, I love crime.
Yes, yes.
Turns
Well,
out
I read War
classic
and Peace
literature
for the
is
first
actually
time.
good stories.
Some of it is really, really quite good.
Yeah,
This-
no, Crime and Punishment is one of my favorites, and the idea of sitting around talking to people.
It was pretty great.
Especially with everything that's going on right now. The idea of getting an hour to sit down and talk to people about a book sounds like maybe the best thing in the
great.
world.
We're doing a series called POTUS, which we are reading the definitive biography of every American president. So we started with George Washington. Today we're doing Harrison, a local boy. Local
Okay.
boy makes good.
One of 3, is that right?
More than that.
Taft, Harrison. I'm not a Cincinnati boy.
Is Grant technically ours?
I'm the wrong person to ask.
Like 7 states lay claim to Grant.
He's like Lincoln, where everybody wants to have a piece of him.
He's like Lincoln, but a lot easier. He has apparently slept in a lot of places.
He got around.
Yeah, Grant slept here. Apparently, he slept everywhere. So, no, we're missing a couple. I think we have 5 United States presidents.
Okay.
I think we're behind like Virginia and Massachusetts.
That sounds right.
I'm tempted to look in my. I wish there was a
I'll have my
librarian
staff
in the
of
house.
research
Let me-
assistants get on that.
If only there was a library around here.
Let's call Amy.
Yeah.
We'll get Amy on that. But this series, POTUS. So how long
POTUS-
does that series run?
Oh my God! It's like we're doing like 6 presidents a year, and
Okay.
we're on President 45.
45. Yeah. So you got some. You got about a decade worth.
Yeah, we're gonna do a lot of
There.
them, and I thought it was like an insane project. Brendan Cull said, "No, it's a great project, and I'll do it." And
Now, what is the project? I mean, what do you say when you're doing them? Are people reading
he
biographies?
is leading the discussion group
Okay.
every 2 months for
wow.
45 presidents.
Cool.
Up to and including Harrison. It's like, sure, George Washington, that's easy. Abraham Lincoln, great.
Yeah.
FDR, terrific.
We get into
There's a
Polk,
whole
I gotta
bunch
do
of
some
presidents. They
reading.
could walk in the room right now. You're like, yeah, who are you again?
Millard Fillmore,
Yeah, hello,
like-
Mr. Fillmore. Sit down. Let's read a book about you.
Right.
But, so, POTUS, which seems like an outlandish idea, we needed to add a second class. We do one in the evening and we do one at lunchtime. We were having one today at lunch at noon. Old people, young people, rich people, poor people, They're just like,
I love that.
they're in. It's really great. If you looked at Cincinnati through the lens of the Mercantile Library, you would love this city. It might be why I love it here so much.
No, it makes sense. It is Cincinnati's a weird city, and we've talked about this. It's got all this great history. Then it's got sort of the decade of white flight and the death of industrialism here in Cincinnati. And then it's got, sort of a progressive renaissance that's happened recently, but this dual personality now that still inhabits the city. And it does seem like and that's a vast summarization from somebody who's not from here, but it seems like the Mercantile occupies this perfect spot where it's both historic and immediately relevant. Right. And so it's a crossroads for populations of Cincinnati that don't normally have anything to do with each other, maybe.
It is. It's. I think of it as an obligation. I mean, I think we've got this great place. It's sitting up there, and libraries have to do good work. Mm-hmm. It's like your job. If you're not doing good work, well, what the hell are you doing? And we're beholden to no one. We get no tax dollars from anybody. Mm-hmm. So if a lawmaker comes to us and says you shouldn't have drag queens,
you tell them where to get off.
We could tell them to kiss my Irish ass. Uh-huh. It's not going to happen. We don't.
Right.
No one tells us what to do, which sounds super liberating, but it's really onerous. You're like, oh God.
How do we know when we're doing it right?
How are we doing it right? Are we doing the right things? Do we have a moral obligation to this city, to this community? And I frankly think we do.
Where do you look to for the answer to those questions when you're trying to triangulate? Maybe we'll have somebody in, maybe it's somebody you're less familiar with, and you're trying to decide if it's the right person or if it's relevant. What do you look to?
Well, I think I think the most important thing a lot of times is to just shut up, because people have a lot of good ideas, mm-hmm. and I'm not the most well-read person in the world. I always read. I'm always reading. I'm a really slow reader. Like,
there's a lot of books. There's a lot of books out there, John.
There are so many books. And like if you do the math on books, which you really shouldn't, but like if you can read, there's people who go a couple years between books.
Yeah.
Like literally,
mm-hmm.
They can count on one hand the number of books they've read for fun since high school.
Yeah.
Just not their thing.
Mm-hmm.
It takes me a long time to read. I'm not one of those people who reads 50 books a year. So say 10.
Yeah.
I don't know. Say 20 if you want. I don't care what the number is.
My goal was 12 this year. I thought that was a reasonable. It was like
I'm slow. I'm tired at the end of the day. I can't.
Yeah.
But if you start doing the math on, you get 10 and say you're 53. I'm 53. All right, I got 30 more years left at 10 bucks a year. Maybe I can pick up the pace when I retire. But my God, that still means I got like 300 books left.
That many books came out today.
And 290 of them sucked.
Yeah.
So then you got to figure out all right, so which 10 books am I going to read this year? And I try to read I used to have this when I was more ambitious. I had 2 hard ones. I made an air quote. You're forced to listen to this in your car. Please imagine me making an air quote. I used to read 2 hard ones and then an easy one.
Okay.
And now I'm nah, screw that. I'm doing 1 hard, 1 easy, 1 hard, 1 easy.
What qualifies as hard nonfiction?
I'll be the judge of that.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm actually reading, all right, here's a perfect example. My favorite author is this woman named Kate Atkinson. Mm-hmm. And she's incredible. I think she might be the best living author. She lives in Scotland. And she wrote 3 books of fiction about World War II that were historical novels.
Okay.
Truly unbelievable pieces of work. They've all come out in the last decade. They're really hard. You invest in them.
You got to work for it.
You are working.
Mm-hmm.
But each sentence is like a miracle.
Right.
She's that good. And she also has this literally a crime series with Jackson Brody is the hero, and they're high-end crime fiction.
Right on.
So, like, my next 2 books are both Atkinson books.
Okay.
And I
hard,
had
but-
to make a choice yesterday. I had to make a choice. Am I going to read the 3rd in that trilogy of the World War II series? Or am I going to read the 4th in her Jackson Brody? And I picked up Jackson Brody. I was like, no, I can't.
That's the easier one.
I took the easier path. And I'm like 5 pages into it, and I already love it.
Yeah,
already super comfortable with my decision.
You got to make choices, though. I read Stephen King in Hearts in Atlantis. There's a line in there where the character that was later played by Anthony Hopkins in the movie tells the little kid, give it 100 pages.
Yeah.
It's the author's responsibility. If he doesn't get you on 100 pages, move on.
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
That's a big debate in the book world. Is like, I pretty much fight through every book I've ever started, even if it sucks.
There are authors that I love that there have been books that I'll just say, if maybe this isn't the right time, or maybe they just weren't on for this book. Son of the Circus by John Irving. I picked that up and about 70 pages in. I was like, I don't know what's going on here, but it's not getting me, and I'm out. I'm moving on.
I like Irving a lot. Bad authors have terrible books.
Yeah, yeah.
It happens. Terrible authors have wonderful books.
Yeah, sure.
The other side of that coin. But
and there's time and place and what grabs you and what doesn't.
I used to love, and this is so nerdy, I still love like nonfiction books about like the ocean or the sea or whatever. Like, and because like I'm a literalist apparently. Like, if it's a beach book, I'd like to be able to like see the ocean.
You want to be on the beach.
Like, I think I got that wrong when they said this is a beach book. I'm like, oh,
I must be on the beach.
this is a book about the ocean? Yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
And which is a weird, but 2 of the greatest books I've ever read are nonfiction books about the ocean and survival that I read because I was like, well, I'm going to be at the beach. So I read The Endurance, which is, I think, the best nonfiction book I've ever read in my life. It's about, in the early 1900s, a boat called the Endurance, led by a captain named Shackleton, and they were trying to get to the South Pole, and the boat got stuck in the ice and crushed, and they were in literally the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And had no boat and no water, no food. They had nothing.
Stuck on an island, or I remember.
On an
I remember hearing about that.
And they started killing seals, and then they made boats, and after like 2+ years, they made it. I don't think it's not a spoiler alert. They made it back, and no one died.
Wow.
And this was like this was just before World War I. And I remember I read that book. I was like, man, kids are soft today.
Sure.
These are like 20-year-olds.
All of us. Yeah.
And they were like making boats and paddling across like
the wide
frozen
expanses.
Water.
Yes.
Oh, good. This water's not frozen anymore.
And you're reading
I
this.
I can make a boat.
You're reading this on the beach, and you're imagining.
That sounds cold.
Colder times.
That sounds really cold.
I love that. I love, when I went to the former Soviet republics, I was reading Solzhenitsyn. When I went to South Africa, I'm reading Cry the Beloved Country, and
it's a great book.
There's something about reading something in its place that really does anchor you in the story and make it more and more real.
I agree with that. But I love reading. I'm trying to make my kids readers.
Are they picking it up?
Maybe.
How old are your kids?
21, 18, 16, and 12.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're
pretty
right
soon-
there.
Pretty soon I'll be back to having 3 teenagers. 2 of them are readers, 2 of them are not.
Okay.
But they're starting. I didn't read when I was their age. I read after college.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say to Luke all the time, I'm like, hey, why don't you read a book? Because I'm that dad.
You're kind of contractually
Hey,
obligated to
God
say
damn
that,
it,
aren't
read
you?
a book.
I can find one for you. There's
Yeah,
80,000 of them within a few steps of my desk.
And I do bring him back books.
Yeah.
But they both recently asked for one, and he reasonably said to me, Dad, I read books all the time in school. He's in high school.
Sure.
So, and they make those kids read terrible books. One of these days I want to have an event at the library where we talk about, like, why are we making high school kids read, like Charles Dickens when...
Well, nothing
let's be
good
honest,
has been written
Dickens
in the last
sucks
50 years.
If you're 16 years
No,
old.
seriously.
He kind of sucks if you're 53 years old.
Yes.
No,
and there's a way
kids,
a way in there, but if you're not there, why are you going to force them to read it? It's not like there's not anything good that will accomplish the
they
same
are
thing.
teaching kids that reading sucks.
Yeah.
And there's so many good YA books out there right now that they should say, you know what, get to Dickens when you want.
Sure.
Read that
and never if
later.
you don't, because he's great, but he's not great for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Read books that make you love reading.
Right.
And there are teachers who 100% agree with that, and there are teachers who 100% think that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. You have to teach them the classics. These are archetypes, and they might be right.
But if you push them
I don't know
away
that there's
with
a
the classics.
right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
But I mean, Luke was trying to read Great Expectations last year, and it's a terrible book if you're a kid.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, get past, and it's that old English.
Yeah.
It's not easy to access. And I kept saying, well, it's a great story, kid. Stay with it.
Sure.
Story's great. The sentences are awful, but go up to 10,000 feet and enjoy the story.
Yeah.
His point, a valid one, was, why am I reading a story with, I got to go up to 10,000 feet?
Sure. I didn't like
We'll
Great
never answer
Expectations.
this question.
I loved David Copperfield. I didn't like Great Expectations. It's like not everything is for everybody. My son is a voracious reader of things that he's really into.
Right.
And so he'll go through, whatever YA fantasy or fiction thing it is. He'll read the whole series of 6 books in like 2 days. But if I try to get him, and I'm like, man, I really loved S.E. Hinton when I was a teenager. He's like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Like,
he doesn't.
okay, fine.
Nor should he.
No, right. The
great.
Outsiders doesn't mean anything to me. Why should it? Like, I don't care about the socias. Like, so.
Those are powerful books.
Oh, I loved it. I loved that. Yeah, no.
And the movies were so bad. Oh my God, star-studded and awful.
Yeah. But it's like important books at pivotal points in your life.
Yeah,
and he will read other books that will be the important pivotal books at important points in his life, and they're not mine, and that's got to be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Those Hinton books are pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know. They're still. Yeah. Anyway, I think the fact that the music is on means that we should.
Oh, it's after 4.
Probably wrap it up. It is.
Yeah.
It is after 4 o'clock, and this place
Did
is
I
open.
answer all your questions?
Absolutely. I love this, and I love the podcast is about work, and it's about how people do.
This podcast is about work?
It is. Did that not come through?
Hold on.
I've not done my job.
A podcast about the soul of work.
There it is. Yeah, we talked about your work.
All right.
If I was to
Should
ask
I have
you,
been smarter?
No, this was exactly
This was just smart
this was
enough, John.
exactly what I wanted, because there's this discussion about work, and there's people who think that there's one path, and that if they're not on it,
there's as many paths as there are choices.
Right.
How's that?
No, that is
How's that for a bumper sticker?
that is exactly it. No, and I love getting a little.
It's on my Zen calendar.
It is a good Zen calendar. I'll have to pick that one up. No, this has been perfect. Thank you for wandering up here on a hot and steamy Cincinnati day. Those
Thanks
are stickers
this
for you.
amazing visual component of this podcast.
If you never listened to the show, you've at least got the stickers, which are the best component. So
The Distiller. So it's like you distill things.
Ideas, hopefully.
It has nothing to do with booze.
Other than that we drink.
All right.
No, that's it.
Well, now we understand this way more.
John, thank you so much for
Thanks
coming
for
by.
having me.
I really appreciate it. This episode of The Distiller was recorded live at Vodka Bar, serving spirits and cuisine from the old country at 1200 Main Street in Over the Rhine, Cincinnati, Ohio. Thanks to Sarah and the crew for hosting us. If you are in or around Cincinnati and have not been to Vodka Bar yet, spelled Vodka Bar, you are missing out. The place is beautiful and welcoming. You can see Kyle Wolf's beautiful photos of our time there for proof on our website. The drinks are unique and delightful. The pierogies, the caviar, and the sauerkraut are authentic and delicious. Stop by and enjoy, and please tell Sarah you heard it on The Distiller when you do. Thanks so very much to John FAHERTY, Executive Director of the Mercantile Library, for spending a hot Friday Cincinnati afternoon with us. The historic Mercantile Library is located at 414 Walnut Street on the 11th and 12th floors in downtown Cincinnati, Ohio. And you can stop by, take a look, and visit even if you're not a member, but once you visit, you will want to be one. John, along with Amy Hunter and the staff of the library, have so much going on, from the Words and Music series we talked about to their famous Niehoff lecture series, weekly book clubs, and other one-off events. Go to our website at thedistillerpodcast.com, where we have photos of the library and links to their website and social media pages. If you live in Cincinnati, please think about becoming a member. It's a significant act of intellectual rebellion and a cultural investment you will not regret. The Distiller is produced, recorded, and hosted by me, Brandon Dawson. Our show is mixed and edited by Justin Golden. Beautiful photos for this episode are by the amazing Kyle Wolf. You can find links to more of her work on our website as well. Our logo was designed by Scott Ryan, and our videos are by Mike Helm of Minute Moments Pictures. You can find The Distiller wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can listen and download every episode of the show at thedistillerpodcast.com, where you can also find links, photos of the guests, and a map of all of our show locations. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell somebody about it. You can do that by following, liking, and sharing our posts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you want to help us make more of these episodes, just click the Become a Patron button on our website for more information. And finally, please take a second to rate and review The Distiller wherever you listen and help us get the word out about the show. We love to hear from you. You can always email us at mail@thedistillerpodcast.com or write us on social media and tell us who you think should be on The Distiller to talk about their search for meaningful work, or where you think we should record the next episode. Whether it's by email, on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, please drop us a line and let us know you're listening. Until next time, I'm Brandon Dawson. Thanks for listening to The Distiller. Bye-bye.